Welcome back to the Impact Show. So this is my 66th interview. I'm so excited because I have loved flying on airplanes since I can remember. But I can also remember that airplanes have not changed at all. The body of an airplane, the way it flies, everything's been the same until I met this guy, Tom O'Leary, of a company called JetZero, and now we're here at your beautiful, over-the-top, state-of-the-art facilities in Long Beach. Such an honor. You and I had dinner a few weeks ago with Palmer Luckey and some of our friends in Orange County. We got to know each other, so I'm very, very grateful for that. Also grateful to my partner, Kevin Maloney, and believing in the IEC. This was our vision 8 years ago, is to be in front of new frontier companies and founders to talk to us about your challenging stories as an entrepreneur, with all the trials and tribulations of trying to build an enterprise and something this new frontier. I can't wait to bite into this interview. I know you very well. Maybe you could share with our audience a little bit about your background and where you grew up and how you got into this.
Sure. So Tom O'Leary, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of JetZero. I grew up in the Northeast, moved around quite a bit, and went to school in the South, but didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, and got into education right out of college. I was a school teacher. Which was another way of saying I needed to do something during the day, so in the afternoon I could coach basketball. I mean, that was basically what I wanted to do, was coach basketball. That seemed like that's what my ADD 24-year-old mind wanted to be, like in the gym with a bouncing ball. But then got into business because, you know, you need to make a living at some point, and found my way into startups. From .com in the late 90s, automotive. I worked at Ford.com, Ford, doing Ford.com and their infrastructure, eBay Motors, and then heard of this little electric car startup called Tesla. And so I was one of the first employees there, a little over 100 actually. So I was employee like 120 in 2006 at Tesla. My responsibility there was basically product marketing or product market fit, go-to-market strategy. So that's kind of the confluence of sales, marketing, product market fit. And that is where a lot of the belief for the disruptive technology that once I got into aerospace about 10 years ago, worked on an electric aircraft startup, met my co-founder there, had hired him to design an electric aircraft. And then I saw this beautiful blended wing body, what we call an all-wing aircraft, in his portfolio. And I said, wow, what is that? And why aren't you doing it?
Right.
And he said, well, I mean, how does one, you know, that's just Boeing and Airbus, and how does one do such a thing? Well, of course, having been the first person to open a Tesla store and having stood in front of that car for years, having people say, this is crazy, you'll never be able to do this. You know, he was asking me about that right at about the time where Tesla was about to become the #1 selling car in the world. And so it's amazing what having that experience in your repertoire will do for your belief system. You know, your belief meter and your fear meter are not calibrated like the rest of the world when you've lived through this thing where you've decided, you know, we're going to make this electric car thing happen.
Right.
But this is a wholly different thing. And it's actually, from my perspective, having done product market fit projects, go-to-market strategy, it's way more profound in terms of how disruptive this technology is, because it effectively is going to make everything about flying a commercial aircraft better, and for everybody, the pilots, the crew, the people, even the ground handling, like everything about it is going to improve, which I think we can all agree. I don't even need a show of hands. We can all agree that that system is in need of improvements.
So let's talk about that. Teacher turned, you know, EV company turned founder. What was the aha moment where you knew this was actually going to be a business, that you could actually take this into the market, raise capital, and actually get behind this vision?
It's never the one thing, right? And I think we're always looking for the deductive smoking gun argument. For me, as an educator, I'm a big fan of like the inductive. It's all these things, they all add up to one big thing. But if I had to pick, I would say it was when we realized that 30% aerodynamic efficiency equates to a fuel burn that can go into a middle market where there's no plane presently.
Yeah.
And the fuel burn benefit got even bigger. So 30% became 50% because we were moving up into a bigger plane in a part of the market where there is presently no new aircraft.
Right.
Can you imagine deciding that you wanted to start a car company and having somebody say, well, what is your go-to-market strategy? And being able to say something as preposterous as, well, there's no 4-passenger cars out there.
Right.
And so my strategy is I'm going to make a 4-passenger car. What do you mean there's no 4-passenger?
Right.
There are literally no planes in the market. If you normalize for a 3-class passenger, like what Alaska flies, so first class, like a premium economy and then the economy class.
Sure.
There are no planes in the market between 200 and 250 passengers. They're not sold.
Right.
So there's your 4-seater car, which if you can deliver on it, you're going to have a market.
I mean, absolutely. It pays for itself. Fuel efficiency, just a couple of weeks ago, you guys were all there when we interviewed Aptera Motors. If you think about the efficiency of the design, when they created that design, think about how much value that propels into the automotive marketplace.
Yeah.
You guys are doing that for aviation. So fuel efficiency was an obvious variable. Any others that lend itself to the momentum behind JetZero?
Oh, absolutely. So fuel efficiency also gives you emissions reduction, noise reduction, any of the things that you would see as a negative to a community, an airport, right? It's a plane going by right now. It's pretty loud. So we're gonna reduce that as well. And this airport that we're on is it's limited in the number of flights per day because of a cumulative noise ordinance. Really though, the cabin, right? If you're an airline, you don't sell planes. That's what we do. You sell seats in a cabin on a plane. And certain things are fixed. Like people think about this market as being, infinitely complex. Actually, there are certain things that are simple. New York and Los Angeles are not getting any further away, and they're not getting any closer. So we know it's 2,300 nautical miles, and so that's it. But when it comes to the seats on a plane, we have for years and years and years been stuck in the tube, which is a little bit of a constrained environment. So moving into this great big, more volumetric space, more of a human space with vertical walls. It's more like a room, more like a home than a hallway. The ability to improve the seats, the widths, the arm, faster boarding, but just the simple thing.
Sure.
We know it creates anxiety. We're all waiting to get on the plane and rushing and looking at each other like we're mortal combatants in the Squid Game.
Oh yeah.
And why is that? Because we're all worried, is there going to be a place for my bag? And so just to be able to solve that one pain point because of this volumetric advantage.
Sure.
So you just asked me a question. When did you know?
Right.
Of the, now thousands of people who have walked through this cabin mock-up, that's the moment.
That's the moment.
For the majority of people, you're like, wait a minute. They stop you. Did you just say dedicated bin space?
Right? I mean, that right there is genius, because I get a lot of anxiety when I'm sitting towards the back and they're saying, hey, you're going to have to check your luggage in. No. Well, that's pretty cool. Well, I did my master's in organizational leadership. In order to not only build a breakthrough, disruptive brand, you also got to have good people.
Yeah.
So how did you go about forming your team, your leadership team, and where did you start to create what you've got now?
Well, both Mark and I did what most founders do, which is we reach out to our personal network of people who we know can do the thing that needs to happen, right? And actually, again, there's a bunch of stuff, right? So what do you need? You need a small group of talented individuals that are dedicated to a mission, and they're just focused on execution.
Right.
And so people, you've worked with people. So there's people in the company who this is the third company they've worked with me, or the third company they've worked with Mark. But fundamentally what you want is people who, I asked the same question. A lot of this is sort of like Elon Startup 101, but it's basically, you want to hear from people who you ask, what are you going to do on day one without any supervision or instruction? Because we don't have time.
Sure.
And usually people who come to an environment like that kind of know that that's table stakes, and they come in saying, this is the value I think I can add. We didn't even have job descriptions for the first, I would say, 3.5 years.
Right.
And then your org has to grow, and that's the
Right.
stage we're at now, where you get over 200 people, and between 200 and 1,000, or
Right.
most people say 150 and 1,000, you've got to go through some bursts, and you still want to carry that forward. Like people who take extreme ownership
Right.
for what they're doing, and they manage up.
Right.
Right. That's really the thing, is you get people who own stuff, and when
Yeah.
they hit a roadblock or
Right.
a strategic issue, friction, they manage up. That's what you're looking for.
So for our audience, we have like thousands of founders that watch this show. Think about when you start your reinvention of an industry, don't necessarily give titles to those first few employees. Let them reimagine their business unit and let them free, what Tom's saying, because I think you're going to get a better outcome that way. Now you're in a
100%. In fact, if people come in and say, if the number one thing that's on somebody's mind is what their title is, it's almost for sure not going to.
It traps their creativity.
It's
too.
not going to be a fit.
So
it's not that way.
Just as a quick orientation, can you tell us the timeline of when you founded JetZero, got some funding, got some traction? Just a quick timeline for our audience so they know the whole history of the business.
Well, actually, the history of the business goes all the way back to the early 90s, when McDonnell Douglas employees started working with NASA. And then, of course, they got bought by Boeing, and that work continued. And my co-founder continued that work at his own startup, which was engineering services called Design.
Okay.
It was in 2020 that we spun this out of his prior work. And so he really deserves this credit of founding from the perspective of never letting this incredibly disruptive technology, die on the vine.
Right. So
he was a force.
Okay. And then take me along into where it's at today.
So what we did is we founded the company with, not even $1 million. And we just said, great, we're going to, and it was at a time when stupid money was pouring into, like, it was 2020, 2021. It was like, it was all going into climate, but we were like the redheaded stepchild.
Right.
They looked at us and they're like, but you're going to burn fossil fuel to
Right.
start. We're like, yes, we're going to burn fossil fuel, but we're going to burn 50% less. Is that not good enough? And they'd be like, oh no, that's not good enough. And we're like, I'm confused. So it wasn't all bad. We found people who really liked the mission and the vision. First of all, NASA.
Yeah, well,
that was the first check-in. Was NASA said, hey, we've got this sustainable flight demonstration program. Finally, somebody wants to commercialize this thing we've been working on for decades and put $1 billion into. They were thrilled, and so we did. We worked on that, and then we did a seed round. Tony Fadell, who's, ran the iPod, iPhone, iPad projects for Apple.
Right.
Have you heard of those?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just checking.
A couple of them.
Yeah. Just small. And it's so cool because he came in and said, this is disruptive tech.
Wow.
This is something. He said what a lot of, the buy sign, when you hear somebody, somebody's committed to helping with the buying into the mission, not like buying into the mission. Really, the symbol, the sign that you get is, this needs to happen.
Right.
And then they look in the mirror and go, oh, wait, I just signed myself up.
Right.
And that's kind of the way it was when Tony came in and looked at this, and he's just such a passionate, such a creative, he looked at this, and his whole team actually came in after that.
Sure.
His marketing folks, his PR folks, business folks. And so that was great. And then we got the Air Force deal.
And what year was that?
That was 2 years ago.
Okay.
So Air Force, Northrop Grumman came in as a partner 2 years ago and agreed to use their scale composites unit to build the demonstrator up in their Mojave facility. And, the Air Force, what a boon. It's like when climate funds wouldn't throw silly money at us, which was frothy, because we were going to still burn fossil fuels. Like, that's okay. We just had to find another way.
Right.
And that other way was to provide something to the Air Force that they really sorely needed, which was a new way.
So a lot of us are in regulated industries, some more than others, but what could be more regulated than the FAA? So how does that dynamic play into the founding of JetZero and the momentum?
Well, one of the reasons that we have great belief about this product is that it's just the three technologies that NASA had worked on, the key enabling technologies, the aerodynamics, the flight controls, and the structures. So they've done new methods like Kevlar stitched composites. That's how you get this plane. So those are the three things. Now, everything else was meant to be off the shelf. So when we go to the FAA, the first meeting we had with them was called a familiarization briefing.
Right.
One of the members of the FAA literally exclaimed, "Thank God." And we're like, what do you
Right.
mean? And they're like, well, this is great. I mean, we've been hearing about this plane for years and years and years, and now someone's actually going to bring it to, but that wasn't the aha was, this is a Part 25 aircraft.
Mm-hmm.
This will be certified in an existing means of compliance. We don't need new rules.
Okay.
We know how to do these planes. It's not an eVTOL. It's not a supersonic. It's not a ground effect vehicle. It's not a short takeoff and landing vehicle.
Right.
It's, yes, there's a golden age of aviation, but that also puts a lot of strain on the FAA.
Right.
So what does the FAA have? Has a lot of people who know how to certify a Part 25 aircraft.
Correct.
So the thank God was like, whew,
Yeah.
right, I know how to do this.
Right.
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 That really, it's things like that that create a lot of, when you take on a big challenge, being able to, find things like that give you a sense of lift,
Right. Well, part of the reason I started the show is talking about adversity and facing challenges. I mean, this almost seems like making the impossible possible. So every time you faced a roadblock in the evolution of JetZero, what went through your mind to get through it?
Well, you have to be able to regroup, right? You have to be able to wake up every day as a new and take it on as a new challenge. That can be difficult, and you have to do it as a team,
Right.
right? Because the whole team has to stay buoyant, and that's actually our mantra: be the lift and not the drag, right? It's like we can't let the challenges drag us down, but we actually think about it in kind of the same terms that you're talking about. A lot of people look at this as impossible. People join this mission because they think it is possible,
Right.
and they know that their execution is what's going to make it inevitable.
Right.
So the way that you go about execution is just breaking it down into small chunks.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows how you eat an elephant one bite
Sure.
at a time.
Sure.
And, there's all the cliched stuff, which is cliched because it's true and it's worth repeating.
Right.
But ultimately, it just comes down to, can you wake up, start fresh,
Mm-hmm.
not worry about the rejection you took the day before, or the problem that you had, or the person who didn't believe it was possible.
Right.
You just let that roll off, start fresh again.
Right.
That's not rocket science.
Sure. Sure.
I often say that's not rocket science around here, and they're like,
Yeah. It is.
actually,
Yeah.
it's rocket science.
I'm sure. So, I mean, dealing with the airline industry, which is a massive industry, you obviously have competitors that don't necessarily make aircraft like JetZero, but are the traditional, looking at you and seeing this momentum. And, a lot of people are adverse to change. How do you handle these people in group conversations when you're aerospace conversation? Like, is it more of a collaborative thing, or is it kind of like a binary thing where you're like the alt, you're the
The
opposite?
redheaded stepchild,
Yes.
the black sheep.
Yeah.
No problem being the black sheep, but I honestly, I don't think that's where we are in the industry. I think there's a general sense across the industry, even with, I would call them colleagues at Boeing and Airbus,
Right.
because they know they're not really in a position to take this much innovation risk. We have kind of a respect your elders strategy, not strategy, but just demeanor.
Right.
We think Boeing and Airbus are storied companies that have the biggest order banks probably in the history of the world and in any company.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like, if you had a 10-year order bank and $1 trillion value, would you want to go to your shareholder meeting and say, that's obsolete?
Sure.
We're going to do this. And I think they understand that it's a long time before a technology like this can really come in from a volume perspective.
Right.
That's
Right.
where the kind of the difference to automotive does come into play.
Sure.
I think that what is respected about JetZero already is that this technology does look inevitable, and that we have an abundance mentality.
Right.
And I've said that openly at conferences in front of the CEOs of all of Airbus, Boeing, and the suppliers. I've been put on the spot by a panel moderator who was like, well, they're just going to come and kill you, right?
Right.
And I think that the answer I gave, that was a year and a half ago, the answer I gave them is the answer I would give today. A duopoly is not a natural state of business.
Right.
That's not it leads to zero-sum game thinking in an industry that has an effect.
Yeah.
I lose, you win. You win, I lose. That is not like, so we bring an abundance mentality that says if the industry is going to double, we're going to need more capacity, we're going to need more innovation. If you're not in a position to do that, that's fine. That's what startups have done the world over, and that's what we're here to do. And I really don't think it's going to detract from who they are, what they're doing at all. I think eventually we pave the way, we prove the technology, and they will follow that when it's less risky for them to do so, because it's just so much easier for a startup to absorb technical risk of bringing something to market.
So
we've seen it everywhere.
We're shooting this interview right now at JetZero's headquarters in Long Beach, and we're in a room full of 40 founders and entrepreneurs in the IEC. I'm gonna have them ask some questions as well, but we are in California right now. Tough state to do business in. Tell me a little bit about that little gift you got from North Carolina. How did that happen? And give us the future of JetZero.
Yeah, we love being in California, as this is going to continue to be our design hub. You know, it's what so many companies do. Is you have design talent, and that's what this town in particular is known for.
Yeah.
When it comes to manufacturing, though, it's really hard to compete with the Southeast these days because they know how to attract. They put together for us what I believe is the best manufacturing incentive package ever for any company. It's the largest ever for a startup. It's the largest ever for the state of North Carolina. It's top 10 all time by total volume. But what's more important is the upfront commitment. So there's a commitment to the partnership in North Carolina. They're really helping us ground floor. We had a team there this week talking at schools and universities that are creating a pipeline on the workforce. I could go on and on. It's an incredible thing. Like the amount of financial commitment they gave to this, and the amount of like community broad-based research. My team came back and they're like, we're like rock stars there.
What a huge honor, and a public-private partnership in the making. You know, you get private money first, and then you get the public to support you. My friend Palmer Luckey, of course, will be right next to you in Ohio, manufacturing out of his multi-million square foot facility, Arsenal One. So, you know, I see some similarities there in a way. You know, the governors and the states are probably looking at startups like JetZero as, hey, you know, who's going to be building in our state? So continued success there, and what a great model. As my final question to you, Tom, what does the future of JetZero look like? Talk to us 5 to 10 years out. Tell us how this story is going to go.
Yeah, sure. Love to, because we have a very clear eye on 2027 as a first big milestone. That will be the flight of a full-scale demonstrator. Purpose of that is to prove to the world the 30% aerodynamic efficiency gain, which is where you're getting that lower fuel burn from, principally. The next thing from there is the factory itself, right? So being able to produce test aircraft in 2029 for test flight, entry into service in the 2030s. And then our goal, because you asked about 10 years, is to ramp to full rate production, to be producing a couple hundred planes every single year out of that one facility, which seems like low volume, but in aerospace, that's very big. That's big volume. Give me an example, like that would be basically double the max production rate that the Boeing 787 has ever achieved as an all composite aircraft. So it's an ambitious goal, and that's what we're striving for. It's partnerships like Northrop Grumman on the demonstrator side and on the military side, and then partnerships with companies like Siemens that give us. This is the best thing about, like, how do you do it? I've said a lot of words. You know, here's how we're going to do that. We're going to design, test, build, certify, and service planes. Over 10 years, we'll be doing that at full rate. And then you say, okay, how are you going to do that? Well, Siemens has software for every step of that process, and they create a digital twin, which also creates a digital thread that goes all the way through that. And when we actually do that, it's going to be the first, digital backbone aerospace manufacturing, commercial aerospace manufacturing facility at scale that does that. The benefits are immense, but we're already seeing the benefits of that. Because of that whole system, we're able to come back right now already and look at the factory that's being designed, and it's simulating the production.
Right.
So now what you do is you say,
amazing.
like, what's your 10-year
Right,
vision?
right.
In present day terms, what you would say is, well, we build the factory and we hire the people, and then the people start going to work and they start figuring out
Right.
how to get to full rate production. This is different.
Right.
We'll be the first one that basically produces thousands of planes in a, physics-based simulated. It's
Right.
it's not a
Of course.
render,
Right.
and that's going to be just an incredible. Can you imagine how much time you can compress, and therefore how much
Massive.
money you can
Huge.
compress?
Huge. Yeah.
So it's partnerships like Siemens and a constellation of companies that
Right.
know how to integrate there. Huge leg up.
Right, right. Well, we're in a room full of really smart people. I don't have all the best questions, so I'm going to turn it over to them to
Right
help
on.
me out. I'd like to encourage you to just maybe say who you are, what you do, and then ask your question to Tom, and then we'll put that in the subtitles in our finished production. So I'll turn it out to the audience. Okay. Matt. Matt Blake, with One Crew, we do recruitment. Your early days with Tesla, and it seems like Tesla's value today is really built on a lot of data, and our generation, data is going to be gold mine. And is what you're building today building towards the security of your business based on its data collection and what you're able to do with it?
Thanks, Matt. So the question then, just to repeat for the mic, is Tesla history and now into today is based largely on the value and the utility of data. That's an interesting one. So out front of this building is my Model S. If I happen to be driving my Model S down the road at 100 miles an hour and I pick up the phone and call the number, if I just tell Siri, call Tesla service, and I say, boy, my engine, or not my engine, my motor, my left rear wheel is feeling a little rough. I'd like to schedule a service appointment. The person on the other end of the phone, and I've had a similar experience, they're not at 100 miles an hour. The person is just adding a little speed to the story. The person on the other end of the phone is likely to say, well, of course it feels rough. You're going 100 miles an hour and your tire pressure is 24 PSI and it should be 40. So, duh. And so, but that's not how, so that's pretty cool. But it's not how
Right.
the system of air traffic control and planes and service works across the board. Like, they have little tidbits of that, but it's actually more advanced over here. So I think that's a good example, because we still, in the situations in the past year, we've had a couple of, incidents where we're looking for the black box, right? And or it's red, I think, actually, the flight data recorder. We want that to be real time. And
Yeah.
so sitting right behind you is a man whose job it is, our head of IT and security systems, Drew Geyer, who is working so hard to ensure that we're beginning with the end in mind. That what we're doing from a data perspective is we're understanding that these aircraft are essentially giant data capture machines flying through the sky that need, they're edge devices that need an ultra low latency, ultra secure, to the satellite, down to the mothership, aggregating the data for the whole fleet and providing, insight and predictive maintenance and revenue optimization and all of that data. That's part of what we're doing. We can begin with the end in mind, is to understand that the future is all about that data. So it's basically like, how broad a net can you cast, and how quickly can you process the fish that you catch in that net? Okay, that was
Yeah.
that was too far, but you get the idea.
Good question on the data capture, though. That I like that.
Yeah.
Before the next question, I was just curious your perspective on VTOL and just airspace in general. Do you have any perspective on that? Does JetZero have an autonomous vision in its flight plan? Any comments around VTOLs and autonomous JetZero?
Eventually, autonomy is not. It's an inevitability. That it's just a matter of time scale, right?
Right.
A lot of technologies, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when, and when could be 2 years, 20 years, 200 years. So we tend to look at this like, what is going to be inevitable in 2050? I think the inevitability is that any big jet coming off an assembly line in 2050 is going to look something like our jet, because it'll be difficult to compete in 2050 with this plane across the board. That's one inevitability. I don't think autonomy is inevitable by that point.
Okay.
I think anybody who is studying to be a pilot for an airline today is going to have a secure position. If they're a good pilot,
Right.
they're going to have a secure position for their entire career.
Yeah.
Really. That's the way I see it. But by 2100, I think we'll find ways. So yeah, will we see eVTOL get to autonomy sooner? I think so. Will we see long range cargo flying over the sea? You know, before he passed away recently, the founder of FedEx, Fred Smith, visited us.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And we were collaborating with him on like, what do you want to see
Right.
on a cargo aircraft? And he said, in the future, I may not see the day, but I would like to see the point where if I'm flying a plane over the Pacific and I'm over land for like literally 0.5% of that flight, that we'd be able to fly, maybe not autonomously, but maybe there's, like a night watchman kind of a thing.
Right.
And, or it could be remote piloted.
Sure.
There's a lot of, we've been doing this in the military for a long time. So inevitable, not our thrust, not our focus, but we're not going to be left behind. As soon as those things become available,
yeah,
we'll jump in, but I can't see anytime soon.
Question for Tom. Tim, say who you are and what you do so he knows.
Tim Shank, insurance broker.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, thanks for having us. Do you see this design going into the private jet luxury market too at some point, instead of those being tubes?
Yeah, so private jet luxury market. Well, I see BizJet. Any jet can be a BizJet. I'm pretty sure even an A380's been turned into a BizJet. It's just a question of how much. That's another inevitability of the market. It's just a question of how long it takes for the richest person to decide that they want it. So 100% believe that this particular plane, even at this size, 2,300 square feet of floor plan, I think where you're going to see this be the ultimate sort of private experience is sports teams.
I was thinking Air Force One, but that's fine.
Actually, Air Force Two took out. It was watching it take off today.
Yeah.
Wait,
We'll talk later.
yeah, I thought you might know something about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's a 757 that's what, 25,
Yeah.
30 years old.
Yeah.
So that's a perfect. It's 2 engines. Right
Yeah.
now, it's a 4-engine requirement
Oh,
for
got it.
Air Force One.
Right.
So I don't see 4 engines.
So maybe
on
for
that
the
plane.
vice president.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Air Force Two, it's a misnomer, right?
Right.
So Air Force Two is a 757, but if the president gets on it, it becomes Air Force One.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's
So
just,
when we had Trump at Palmer's house, they landed Air Force One, which was a 757 at John Wayne Airport because it couldn't
Exactly.
accommodate the 747. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So it becomes Air Force One. It's
Absolutely,
whatever.
yeah.
Air Force One is actually not a plane. It's whatever plane the
President's on.
the president is on.
Right.
If you put him on a Cessna, that would become Air Force One.
That just doesn't
yeah.
seem on a brand for Trump, especially. No, I don't think that's going to happen.
Hey Tom, Josh Dominic, Trickstar Lines. I make Trains in America.
Yeah, absolutely. Planes, trains, and automobiles.
There it is. It's the best panel coming up.
Mobility. That's right.
2 questions. One, I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer on camera. So, second, whatever. The first is, what percentage of all flight distances do you think are better served by your platform compared to Maxbook?
That's 90%. Is that the one you thought I wouldn't answer on camera? It's 90%.
And then the second question is hydrogen. How do you see that actually playing out? We'll ask about it all.
Sure. That was one of the founding principles of JetZero. It was kind of funny. I was an electric aircraft, and I was looking at this, and was talking to Mark about, let's do this plane. And he was looking at smaller ones, and I said, "Oh, what's it going to be? Is it going to be electric? Because everybody wants to go towards zero emissions, zero pollution. That's great." He said, "No, it's going to be hydrogen." And I was ignorant. I said, "What do you mean? Fuel cells? Those are heavy, right?" Because I was used to the automotive, hydrogen fuel cell is the way to go. And he goes, "No, you can just put hydrogen straight into a jet engine and burn it." And I was in disbelief. and the byproduct is water vapor.
Mm-hmm.
And that just seems utterly preposterous, counterintuitive, whatever you were. And to me, it did. I didn't know this. So I immediately went to the Oracle Wikipedia and, put hydrogen jet engine. And sure enough, first thing, 1938, the first jet engine ran on gaseous hydrogen in a lab in Germany. The very first jet engine. The jet age started with hydrogen. And that was, going back to your earlier question, like, what was that moment? That's I believe that's an inevitable future of jet propulsion. It's going to take a lot longer. Airbus effectively walked away from it because even Europe, that was so far leaning in, couldn't wrap their head around how to fund it, what the timelines look like. It becomes an infrastructure problem. We have an infrastructure that's set up for oil. It's that whole Billy Bob Thornton meme video that's been going around, right? It's like we've got an oil infrastructure. It would take decades to do that. But the interesting thing is, when we have that infrastructure, this is the shape of the aircraft that will fly with that future. But I want to go back to your early one because it's such a revealing question and answer. What percentage of flights, I think is a good way to say it, it's 90% of, we go up to 5,000 nautical miles. And we can improve, that's 90% of all the seat miles. It's either seat miles or actual flights, doesn't matter, right? That is incredible when you consider that we can improve the unit economics against either wide bodies or narrow bodies, and we can improve the experience. And effectively what happens is, and this is true in the United States, you fly a narrow body everywhere that you can, because this unit economics, your per seat mile cost is lower on a narrow body. And then, you go to a wide body. So we can actually improve the unit economics against both narrow bodies and wide bodies. So it's really 90%.
Awesome. Well, on that note, Tom, I'm going to wrap this interview up. I'm going to take these guys back on a bus to Newport Beach. And
Right on.
ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Tom O'Leary. If we can give him a round of applause.
Thank you all.
Excellent interview. This is the reason why we do these things. It's to teach the next generation that anything's possible. This one means a lot to me. My father was a school teacher. I always told my dad, I said, entrepreneurship skips a generation if you're a teacher. He's proof that I was wrong. Okay, you can be a teacher and an entrepreneur, a founder. This is wonderful because we're going to look back at this interview in 10 years when you're flying, when you're at airports, and we're going to say, remember when we had that interview. I'm very blessed for this moment. It's the reason why I created this show. And we look forward to having JetZero as part of Impact 25 in Washington, D.C. in a few weeks. It's going to be very exciting. It's where leaders of the new frontier meet with the policymakers that are making the laws so they can take flight. Ha! How do you like that? Okay?
great.
So with that, thank you all. All right, we're done.
Yeah, sweet.